It's time for another episode of Let's Talk Business, featuring interviews with South Carolina business executives, community leaders, and government dignitaries. Let's Talk Business is a truly one-of-a-kind business-to-business talk show. And now, here's your host, longtime South Carolina business publisher, Rick Jenkins.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Business. I am your host, Rick Jenkins, and whether you are joining us today, maybe by listening on 94.5, The Answer in the upstate of South Carolina, or maybe you are checking out a podcast on Google or Spotify or Apple, or maybe you are watching the weekly video series on YouTube. Regardless of how you have found us, I am glad you're here. Let's Talk Business is a weekly B2B talk show like no other. There's not another one like it. Every week, I am on here talking to a variety of executives, business executives, community leaders, government dignitaries, basically thought leaders that are experts in their industry, experts in what they do. And they come on here and they share information that is of interest to the business community throughout the Palmetto State. And today we've got a good lineup. Got four folks that are going to join us today, and let me run through and I'll tell you who those are, and then we'll take a quick break and we'll come back and get started. In no particular order, joining me today, first is Joe LaPenna. Joe is the owner and the CEO at Drum Creative. Drum is a full-service marketing agency right here in Greenville. David Benner will be here as well. David is the area president for FocusCFO. FocusCFO, they are the number one provider of fractional CFO services in the country. And then our featured guest today will be Dr. Keith Miller. Dr. Miller is the president at Greenville Technical College. He's been there about 15 years. The college has been churning out a ready supply, and a lot of you folks are very aware of what Greenville Tech means to the community here in the upstate, but they've been churning out a ready supply of skilled workers since 1962. And they now offer more than 100 academic programs, including degrees tied to advanced manufacturing. And as many of you know, the upstate is one of the premier advanced manufacturing hubs in the entire Southeast, and Greenville Tech has played a significant role in that, being able to provide a workforce for the manufacturers that is so critical to that business. So Keith Miller will be here joining us, as well as those other folks, and we will be back in 30 seconds to get you started. Don't go anywhere.
I bet you want a website that drums up business. You see, every business wants to have an effective online presence that helps their business grow. At Drum Creative, we guide you through our process that will drive results by clarifying your message with a beautiful design that's strategically optimized for search. Visit our website at drumcreative.com and let us help you drum up business by designing a website that speaks to your audience and delivers results.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Let's Talk Business. I am your host, Rick Jenkins, and appreciate you joining us, whether you're listening on the radio, 94.5, or catching a podcast, or watching the video on YouTube. Regardless of how you're joining us today, I appreciate it. Our first guest today is David Benner. David is the area president for FocusCFO. FocusCFO is a company that provides fractional executive services in the form of chief financial officers for small companies. David, welcome.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you for allowing me to be here.
Well, it is good to have you, bud. You are the area president for FocusCFO, and I just want to be clear that the area that we're talking about is the upstate of South Carolina,
That's
right?
correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And how long have you been with the company? It's not been very long, right?
Not very long. Just a few months starting this year.
Right. Okay. And before we get too deep into this, I'm going to talk about what fractional services are.
Okay.
And before I get into that, a couple episodes ago, and I know you know this guy, Bill Simmons joined us. Bill is the CEO at Thrive Business Operations, and his company provides fractional COOs, Chief Operating Officers. And so we have had someone on here already talking about this, but fractional executives are basically exactly what it says. An executive, a company may not need a full-time executive in that capacity. They may need a fractional one, which might mean 1 day a week or 2 days a week, correct?
That is correct, Rick.
So you and Bill have companies that provide the same type of fractional services. Now, it strikes me, and I told Bill this, and I want to talk to you about it. It strikes me that fractional services have become way, way more popular over the last several years. I don't know how long, 6, 7, 8, 9 years. Don't know what that is. All I do know is that there was a time when I didn't hear about it much, and now I hear about it all the time. Why is that?
Well, Rick, I believe it's due to maybe staffing issues, but I also believe the need that owners and CEOs look outside of themselves and take advantage of what other people are providing. I came across it probably 6 or 7 years ago in my own company where we utilized outsourced COO and then a CEO that came in. Now, we didn't call them fractional at the time,
Right.
but that's basically what it was.
Right. Well, I think nowadays that companies are always looking to save a buck, right? I mean, times are tough. You always have to look for the health of your company and ways to do things cheaper. And I suppose that a fractional executive could be the answer for some. What type of companies are we talking about? Not necessarily industry. That's not so much what I'm talking about, but size of companies.
Size of companies. And you're correct, industry really doesn't matter. It could be service, nonprofit, for-profit, manufacturing.
Right.
And those sizes could be, we'll talk revenue, maybe from the scale of 2 to 4 million up to 20, as much as 50 million.
Right.
These are companies where they are experiencing some maybe profitability, maybe cash flow issues. Growth will create cash issues. And they'll see a need to help look at the things in the financial aspect of the company.
Right. So if a CEO may decide that, what are the reasons that he or she may look for a fractional exec? I mean, one is I need to save money. I'm paying this person by the time you count benefits and insurance and all that kind of stuff. I'm paying $200,000 and I just can't afford that, right? So part of it is driven by pure money, but there are other factors as well.
There are other factors. And usually I would say we start on the scale where they don't have a CFO or haven't even considered a CFO. It's where they're doing it themselves. These are owners who are embedded themselves daily and looking for assistance. Something has triggered it. Maybe they're looking to exit in the future. Maybe they're having some cash flow, like we said, or they've gotten some advice. Maybe their CPA has advised them that, hey, you need some additional forward looking. We're helping you in this area. Let's look at how to analyze this information.
Right.
And so they look outsourced for that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I didn't think of it in those terms. It could be that the CEO is so busy that he or she can't do the things that are important within their company because they are having to do billing and invoicing and all that kind of stuff, logistical nightmares, that maybe they're at the point where if they invest in a fractional person, then they can drive sales within the company.
That's exactly right. I like to use the analogy of a vehicle where this owner is in the vehicle with his hands on the wheel, and we're not coming into the vehicle and taking over. A CFO is going to sit in the passenger seat, allow him to be free to quit looking at all the gauges, rely on them being accurately, and look out the window and maybe help button up some of the performance aspects of his reporting systems in the financial area and analyzing those and knowing how to make better decisions going forward.
I like that analogy. So, keeping with that, then a CFO can sit there, maybe can provide direction, right? You're not driving, but you can provide some direction.
That's right.
From the passenger seat of the car. How many CFOs do you have, Dave?
Well, FocusCFO has about 120 CFOs at the moment, and that's in 20 states. 13 states, 20 markets. In the area here, we have 5 CFOs currently looking for some additional CFOs.
Yeah. Okay.
And these are guys, gals that are maybe in their second career. They may want to not retire, but continue doing what they're good at.
Right.
Maybe want to provide that service to others. Look at the freedom of doing it in different areas and different industries.
Yeah. So what are the options? Let's say that I decide, I'm a CEO, and I decide that, I need a money guy. And I come to you and I sit down and we start talking about that. What are my options? I'm assuming do you look at it in terms of days per week or hours per month, or what does that look like?
That's a great question. Really what I do is to spend time with them and just get to know them and learn more of their business and build a relationship with them and see, Rick, I may be able to bring them a service that we're not even providing. It's what's the right answer for them. Mm-hmm. Now, if it falls into the area of what we can provide, it may look like, is this foundational financial situation buttoned up, right? He may need some assistance there, or he may be needing to be a little more healthy in how he reports. what he measures, what he does with that information, how his relationship is with his trusted advisors, such as the bank, the attorney, his CPA. Also, if he wants to grow and add more value. So that would look like us just listening and finding out maybe what his concerns are in those areas.
Right.
If his concern is, or her concern may be profitability or cash flow situations, that's really where we're going to focus. We're not going to come in and say, well, we're going to provide these 12 items and we're going to do this. Now, 80% of our engagements are 1 day a week. Some are half a day a week. We have a few situations where we're 2 days a week. And that's an embedded CFO. We'll come in not as a consultant where, I've used consultants in the past. They observe and advise, and that's been helpful. But ours is embedded. Our CFOs will come in, work alongside you, we'll say 1 day a week, in your office, in the strategy time.
Tell me what it looks like. You get a call from a CEO and he or she says, you know what, I think I might need someone. I don't know exactly what I need, but you're going to get together with them, and I would assume you're going to do some fact finding to begin with. What's that look like?
That looks like me asking them a few questions and then kind of focusing in and repeating back to make sure I'm clear as to what they see as a concern. We have a little pre-meeting questionnaire that kind of walks them through self-evaluating kind of where they are in that growth area. That lets me identify some of the key areas. The next step would be we would bring in, I'd match up with one of the CFOs. We'd come in and meet with them and their strategic team, get a little deeper, maybe dig it a little bit more and see where they want to go with this. What does success look like in, say, 6 months to a year?
Yeah.
And there's no charge for that. Well, that's a free assessment. We want to make sure it's the right fit for them as well as for us.
You say fit, and I didn't think about this till just now, but it also has to be a fit between the fractional executive and the CEO.
That's exactly
right. Because
it's vital.
But if you're interviewing someone, right, and if I am interviewing someone to take this job, I'm going to make sure that that's a good fit for me, personality-wise.
Absolutely.
So if it's a fractional person, you might bring in somebody, and it might not be the right person, right?
That's correct. We have had that situation, and we would look at bringing someone else in. Doesn't happen often, but you're correct. Chemistry, culture needs to be a fit in both directions. This CEO, this owner needs to feel good about this relationship. Now, we as the area president stay involved over time, but it's primarily that CFO that's there on a continual basis.
So you would make the connection, you would get it started off, and then I would assume you're contracting with these people, these CFOs?
It's actually month to month. We don't do a contract, which, you know what that means, Rick? We've got to come in and add value, and add value quickly. A lot of I said 80% are 1 day a week. The majority of those range 3 to 5 years continual. Right. A good exit is where an owner and a CEO finds their own CFO. They're at a point where it makes sense, or maybe they're exiting. Maybe they're selling it. And so that's a good, let's stop using FocusCFO.
Yeah, that is really interesting. I did not expect you to hear you say that. You're saying that you do not enter into a contract with the people who want your services.
That's
you go
correct.
month to month.
That's correct.
So they come to you, you go in, you sit down, you take someone over that you think might be a good fit, one of your CFOs. You sit down, they say, all right, let's use this person 1 day a week. And at the end of that month, if they want to go their own way, they're going their own way.
That is correct. Yeah. So you know what that means? That CFO and I have to add value quickly.
Yeah, exactly.
And we believe that we can, if we're not going to engage unless we feel it's a fit and we can add value.
David, really good stuff.
Well, I've enjoyed it. And I want to tell you, the previous episodes that I've watched, I've learned a lot.
Good.
I look forward to the future featured speakers. Well, and I appreciate you putting all this together.
Well, David, thank you so much, buddy. I appreciate you being here, folks. That is David Benner. He is the area president for FocusCFO. And don't go anywhere, though. We're going to take a quick break, only about 30 seconds, and we will be back with our next guest. See you soon.
PTG actually stands for Palmetto Technology Group. We're what's called a managed service provider. We exist to align technology to business value.
We help businesses work better by trying to be proactive. If they call us with a problem, we try to find out, okay, is that the only problem? Or is there a root cause? There may be something else going on that's causing this.
It takes a very special kind of person, I think, to bring the IT world into the business world and make sure those two are working well together.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Let's Talk Business. I'm glad you're back with us because now it is time to speak with our featured guest, and our featured guest today is Dr. Keith Miller. Dr. Miller has been the president at Greenville Technical College for, 15 years?
15 years, that's
15
correct.
years. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate the invitation.
Well, it's good to have you here. I haven't talked to you in a little while, and it's always good to catch up with you, so I appreciate you sitting in. I want to talk about quite a few things today, but before we get into that, I want to talk about you just for a second. If I remember right, you're a Kansas boy.
I am.
You're a Jayhawk.
Grew up, well, Jayhawk and a Wildcat.
Kansas State.
Yes.
Kansas State.
That is correct.
Okay, that's right. And you grew up in Kansas, but you wound up coming here 15 years ago. I forget now. We've had this conversation, but what brought you to the upstate of South Carolina?
Well, I moved around quite a bit because of my career in higher education. And actually, I didn't start in higher education. I started in healthcare. That led me to a career in colleges and universities, and then moving through the various positions of dean, vice president, and then presidencies. This was a next natural step. It was, this is my third presidency.
Right.
And certainly enjoy it.
You were at, I can't believe I remember this, but I think I remember Blackhawk College?
That's correct, in Moline, Illinois.
Illinois. I was going to say Iowa, but in Illinois, and that was right before you came here.
That's correct.
And then you came here, and now, have you been here long enough to be called a South Carolinian?
Oh, I think so.
Have you? Okay, good.
I feel like I have, because we've become ingrained in the community, very much so.
Yeah. Well, I've been here 20 years, and sometimes I say I'm a South Carolinian, and there's always somebody who says, no, dude, you're not. You got to be born here. But I'm with you. I feel I've been here long enough to be called one. So let's talk about Greenville Tech. Let's talk some business. Okay. Greenville Tech, give me a kind of a brief state of the college. Tell me what's going on. Enrollment is up, right? I mean, considerably so.
Enrollment is up double digits.
That's right.
And Greenville Technical College was the first technical college in the state of South Carolina. We opened our doors in 1962 with one campus, of course, and that's the primary campus, which is located on Pleasantburg, the Barton campus, named after Dr. Barton, who started the college.
Right. So you're the second president.
I am just the second president. Yeah. He was at the college for 46 years, which is mind-boggling.
Right. But you won't make it 46, will you?
No, probably not. He accomplished a lot, no doubt. Yeah. But we now have 5 campuses and several centers, a total of 19,000 students between college credit-bearing programs and courses, as well as workforce development non-credit courses. And we continue to grow. As I said, the enrollment has, we've seen double-digit enrollment increases through especially our fall and spring semesters.
A couple episodes ago, Ann Wright joined us here. And Ann, of course, is the Vice President of Advancement for the Greenville Tech Foundation. And she came on, and we talked about a variety of things, but one of the things that we talked about was that the foundation is celebrating its 50th year this year. Tell us about the foundation just a little.
The Greenville Technical College Foundation is absolutely crucial to the success of the college, and therefore many students. Many students would not be able to not only not enter a college, many times would not be able to continue their education because of some difficulties that they may face in their personal or family life. And the foundation steps in to help support that. But, they do that because they've created a lot of friends and supporters throughout Greenville County that believe in the mission of Greenville Technical College, that believe in the mission of Greenville Technical College Foundation, which is to support students. And so the foundation has done an excellent job of bringing those supporters together to help direct their efforts and their giving to help support the students. So there's absolutely no doubt that we would not be serving the size of student body that we are without the assistance of the Greenville Tech Foundation. So I certainly appreciate everything that they've done.
Keith, congratulations are in order. a couple months ago, you were awarded with the Order of the Palmetto.
Thank you.
You are very welcome. That is South Carolina's highest civilian honor. I believe that the Order of the Palmetto was started back in the early 70s, 1971, I believe. And the governor at that point was John West, I think.
I think you're correct.
And Governor West started this, and in that time, so like we're talking 50 some years ago, there have only been a few thousand people over the course of 50 years that have received this, and so it's a big deal. I feel like I'm talking to a really important dude right here, right? But seriously, congratulations. And I think there were probably quite a few things that led to you receiving this. But one of those things that has to be high up on your resume, and that would have had to have been high up on the list of things that the powers that be were looking at when they decided that Dr. Keith Miller should be bestowed this honor, was the creation of CMI, the Center for Manufacturing of Innovation. For the folks who don't know about that, tell our readers and our listeners a little bit, our viewers and listeners, a little bit about what that is and what it does.
Certainly. The Center for Manufacturing Innovation, first of all, is located next to ICAR, the International Center for Automotive Research. And it came about as a result of, as we were coming out of the recession, 2009, 2010, 2011, somewhere around in there. And of course, that's when business started to pick up again for our local manufacturers. And therefore, they needed more trained technicians. Rapidly, they needed more trained technicians. And it was obvious that we, Greenville Technical College, needed a new approach to how we train and educate those new technicians for them. I remember telling the governing board, my board at the college at the time, is, we could have easily just built an addition to an existing facility and expanded our program, but I don't think that would have fully addressed the need of our local employers. So we stepped back, and actually we took a lot of time having conversations with the employers and with potential students to identify the barriers that were there, to identify how to turn the whole ship around, you might say, and to provide an education in various aspects of manufacturing differently than has been provided before, whether it's at Greenville Technical College or anywhere else. That's what really led to the creation of the Center for Manufacturing Innovation. And what's interesting is, people often ask me about the challenge to build the physical structure. And that really wasn't the challenge. The challenge was, how do we create the service that's going to exist within the physical structure and change that service to better address the needs of our local employers? And so that took a number of years to do that. But thanks to a lot of partners, we were successful in making that happen.
Yeah, you certainly were. I have been out there many times, and it's a beautiful facility. All kinds of, there are places, for the folks who haven't seen it, students can come in and get hands-on experience in a variety of ways. I don't know if you've still got them, but there used to be a whole bank of 3D printers and stuff out there that people could train on and that type of thing. So you can actually have classes here, number of office spaces, just multi-purpose, right?
Very much so. It was really designed to do several different things. One of them was to replicate a modern manufacturing environment, because we know, especially for the younger individual just right out of high school, there's still a little bit of this perception of manufacturing being kind of the old dirty shop floor.
That's right.
Not being full of robots, not being full of computers, et cetera, et cetera. But of course it is right now. It's full of robots, it's full of computers, and so is CMI. So we've replicated that shop floor, and we bring thousands and thousands of students through there on an annual basis from South Carolina, from other states. We've even had some internationally tour CMI. And our intent, number one, was to absolutely impress them, because we need to change the mindset of the young individual and impress upon them about that there are very productive careers in manufacturing, in many different aspects of manufacturing. And so that was one of our goals, to impress the individual. And then also, we know that the individual that's 40, 50 years old, that's been in the workforce, some other aspect of the workforce, many times has a desire to switch things up, you might say, and get into a different career, a higher paying career. And we deal with a lot of those individuals. So how do you create that service and that program that's conducive to the individual that maybe has been to college in some other profession, but now wants to go back, but yet has family responsibilities, still has to continue to work because they have a family. So how do we structure our services so they can continue that as well as learn a new career? And I think we've been successful in doing that as well.
You know, you hit on what I think is the most important aspect of the CMI, and that is because it allows people, as you say, to get their hands on something and see something in reality. Because, as you said, and I always say it this way, this ain't your daddy's manufacturing anymore, right?
That's right.
We have workforce issues in manufacturing, just like, there's constant workforce development type issues that we need to overcome. But we have workforce issues in manufacturing, and a lot of it is related toward a stigma that continues to exist that really has no business existing anymore. And I think that the Center for Manufacturing Innovation allowed folks to take a big step toward correcting that, even though it's an uphill battle, because it takes a while to get rid of that stigma. Yeah,
it does, and I won't say that we've completely filled all the need that is out there in the manufacturing sector. We have not, but we continue to work towards that goal. One reason is, like I mentioned earlier in the program, our manufacturers are very successful. They keep expanding. Manufacturers from other states often move, as you know, to South Carolina and to the upstate. So that creates even more need for those trained technicians. And so we continue to expand our programs and partner with business and industry to help fill those needs.
Let's stick with manufacturing for a second. The upstate of South Carolina has become, over the last decade or so, and continues to be one of the biggest up-and-coming advanced manufacturing hubs in the Southeast. Correct. It continues to grow. Now, of course, we can go back to the early 90s when BMW came here, but we're so much more than that now. There are so many folks who follow BMW as suppliers and smaller manufacturing companies, but we are so much more than that. And that has allowed this hub to kind of continue to take hold and grow, with Greenville being at its core. So all that being said, I would imagine, Keith, that oftentimes there are representatives from the college talking to representatives, and let's use Lockheed Martin, that representatives from Lockheed and from the college are getting together to have these conversations that probably sound something like, you know what, I need 16 more of this type of job and I just can't find them. I need 12 more of this type of job and I can't find them. Keith, how can you help us? I would assume those types of conversations are happening all the time.
They are absolutely happening all the time. But if you use Lockheed Martin as an example, let me change some of the specifics to give the exact situation. Because as you know, it wasn't that long ago they obtained a contract for the F-16. The way that conversation went is, we got the contract for the F-16, Greenville Technical College. We need 300 more trained technicians.
Yes.
Those are more kind of...
Need them yesterday.
And yes, absolutely yesterday. But those conversations do happen a lot. And the way they happen is we talk about how we can make that happen in partnership, because the employer, Lockheed Martin in this case, just doesn't say we need 300 more trained technicians and then walk off and leave it up to us to make it happen.
Right.
It truly does take that partnership. Many times, Lockheed Martin or other employers will pay for the tuition fees and books. And that's a big recruiting device. So that helps us when we go out recruiting students to train in the appropriate program. So those partnerships are absolutely crucial.
Keith, I want to continue to talk about two-year schools, community colleges, tech colleges being a seemingly much more palatable option as we go forth for students, and I think for their parents as they, as they help those students decide where they're going to go. I know that there was a time, and this has been quite some time ago because things have been changing, but there was a time when a 2-year school was just not an option for a lot of folks. There was maybe a stigma associated with the 2-year school once upon a time, and that is changing. But boy, I feel like, Keith, that over the last several years that it has just really been changing even more. And I think a lot of it is probably tied to the conversation that we've been having about things like manufacturing and some of the trade jobs that only require a 2-year degree in some situations. But do you feel that as well? I would assume you can see it in that enrollment that's up by double figures, like you said earlier. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely. There's been a tremendous amount of change in what the 2-year college means and the type of service that we provide. If you step back to the very beginning of the community college, of the 2-year college, it was created many years ago to be simply a stepping stone to universities. Really didn't focus on any type of career programs or anything. As a matter of fact, many of the early 2-year colleges were run by universities. But as time moved on, as professions change, as careers change, as technology forced change to happen, it was obvious there was a need to provide some of that education that required just 2.5, or 3 years short of the baccalaureate degree or 4 or 5 year degree. And then fast forward to today, you have, and I'm quite often asked this, and that's, what's the difference between a community college and a technical college? In our case, there is no difference. The difference is in the name, and the name only. Greenville Technical College is a comprehensive community college, which means we offer university transfer education, which means we offer the technical education, as in that needed by the manufacturing employers, which means we offer almost every healthcare program that you can think of, which means we offer a lot of business programs. We now are the only technical or 2-year college in South Carolina that offers a baccalaureate degree in advanced manufacturing technology. And you look at how those careers have expanded. Just as an example, the individual, the professional that keeps the robots running at BMW, right, or almost any other industry, that's a mechatronics technician. We train those every year, hundreds of those every year at Greenville Technical College. And that's a very specific career, heavily dependent upon math, heavily dependent upon electronics, heavily dependent upon mechanical know-how. So those individuals are highly paid individuals. And I will tell you, can go almost anywhere they want to go with that type of skill. And of course, we didn't have that 15 or 20 years ago. Then if I switch and look at the healthcare industry, not just nursing, but radiologic technology, respiratory therapy, physical therapy assistant, occupational therapy assistant, dental hygienist, dental technology. We train all those skilled individuals also, and look at the importance of those technicians for delivering the necessary health care. So all of those are under the umbrella, you might say, of Greenville Technical College. And so that creates an institution that was much different than the community college that started actually well over 100 years ago. The other thing to remember in terms of how we fit, when I say we, I mean 2-year colleges as a whole, how we fit into the higher education model, our accreditation says a lot. We're accredited by the same organization that accredits all the universities in South Carolina, actually all of the universities in the Southeast. We have exactly the same accreditation. What's required of my faculty is the same thing that's required of faculty at many universities. Of course, there are some exceptions to things like that. but they have to go to an accredited university just like faculty members do at the larger universities. So that's crucial because that is what helps a student's education at two-year colleges and Greenville Technical College to then transfer on to USC, to Clemson, to many other universities. And so that's a level playing field for the students. And, those type of partnerships and relationships haven't always existed. Greenville Technical College currently has 80 transfer agreements with over 80 to 90 universities throughout the Southeast and actually beyond the Southeast, which is saying to the student, you can come here and you can transfer almost anywhere. And we do have a growing number of students that come to us and take 1 year of education at Greenville Technical College, then transfer to a university, or more ideally, get an associate's degree at Greenville Technical College, then transfer to a university. And, that's in addition to those careers. And those careers are intended to have that graduate be employable when they graduate from Greenville Tech. So if you go into our mechatronics program that I mentioned earlier, when you're done, once you graduate from that mechatronics program, you don't have to transfer to university. You are job ready.
Right.
When you come out of our nursing program, you're job ready. When you come out of our respiratory therapy program, you're job ready. And the list goes on.
Let's switch gears here just a little bit. I'm going to talk about early college. You and I were talking, before we came on air, and you had mentioned the term early college, and at first it didn't resonate with me. I wasn't exactly sure what it was, but I understand it. Of course, I just didn't refer to it by that. But it seems like nowadays there is more and more and more early college and dual enrollment opportunities for kids in high school to get a jump start before they ever throw their cap for the first time on graduation day in high school, right?
That's absolutely correct. Early college has absolutely exploded. And to clarify, a lot of people use that interchangeably with dual enrollment. And so to explain a little bit of what both terms mean, it's where a student in high school, usually a junior or senior, most often a senior in high school, takes college courses while they're still in high school.
Yeah.
It's absolute. That has exploded in South Carolina. It's exploded across the nation, not just South Carolina, but we are certainly a big part of that. And they are college courses in every sense of the word. And in other words, if I'm a junior or senior high school and I want to take a college course at Greenville Technical College, I have to pass the same entrance tests if there are any. I have to have the same skills, English skills, math skills, whatever the case may be that the course requires as any student, coming to campus to take the same course. That's absolutely crucial, and it's important that we maintain that. We offer college courses on every high school campus of Greenville County right now, plus on 3 of our 5 campuses, we have 3 charter high schools. There's many times we'll see a student graduate from high school and already have 60 credits or 90 credits completed in college. Sometimes have already completed an associate's degree by the time that they graduate from high school. Excuse me.
It's amazing. I had no idea. Do you have a feel for how many students might be taking early college classes in terms of a percent or a total? I mean, what are we talking about here?
Well over 2,000, and it keeps going up.
Over 2,000 in Greenville County?
That's correct, because that's our service area,
right.
Greenville County. So it keeps going up, not every year, but every semester. And the prediction is for that to continue to increase. There's another important component of all of this too, and it actually ties into the cost of a higher education, because when those students, take those courses while they're in high school, depending on where they're at, that does not cost that student or that family anything. Greenville County our partners, Greenville County Schools, through our partnership with them, see the value in that also. And they pay for much of that, if not all of that, tuition, the fees, and the books. So from a financial perspective, for the family of that student, it's absolutely critical. Then when they graduate from high school, if they haven't completed their associate's degree and they come to Greenville Technical College, and let's say they go into mechatronics, again, just to use that as an example, the state of South Carolina has been very generous in creating state-funded workforce development scholarships that, in our case, will pay for close to, and most often, 100% of the tuition and fees for a student going into healthcare programs, into manufacturing type programs. So you look at you step back and look at all the pieces, the value of a student getting into early college / dual enrollment. It keeps them tied into that education pipeline. Financially, it makes sense for the student and the family. And then to come to Greenville Technical College, even if they haven't completed a degree, but then to get the tuition and fees paid for through a state scholarship.
Can't beat that.
It's all there.
You can't beat that.
That's correct.
Tuition. What is Greenville Tech doing with tuition now? Has it been suspended? What does that look like?
Tuition, tuition was suspended there for a number of years, especially following the pandemic.
Right.
That has changed, and we were allowed to do that. It actually started with an effort of the governor, because he's always been a huge supporter of technical colleges. And he was able to do that because of the availability of some federal dollars. Once those were no longer there, the individual colleges were able to put that tuition on hold, you might say. And actually, it's a little bit of a misnomer because tuition was still charged. It just wasn't charged to the student. Excuse me. So we had local federal dollars that could assist in making that happen. Those dollars are no longer available. However, that's when, as I mentioned earlier, the state stepped in with a scholarship, titled Workforce Development Scholarship. It does the same thing. The tuition is still charged, but that scholarship steps in to pay for that tuition for the student in the vast majority of any of the programs that we have.
Keith, really good stuff. I appreciate you joining me.
It's an exciting, Greenville Technical College is an exciting place and very dynamic.
Yeah, it is, and I always enjoy talking to you. I love Greenville Tech, and you have such a great staff out there, too. I've had 2 or 3 of your folks on the show here, and everyone is extremely knowledgeable, and you've got good folks there, so good job. Folks, that is Dr. Keith Miller. He is the president at Greenville Technical College, and we appreciate him joining us, but we have not finished yet. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in 30 seconds.
I bet you want a website that drums up business. You see, every business wants to have an effective online presence that helps their business grow. At Drum Creative, we guide you through our process that will drive results by clarifying your message with a beautiful design that's strategically optimized for search. Visit our website at drumcreative.com and let us help you drum up business by designing a website that speaks to your audience and delivers results.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Let's Talk Business. I'm your host, Rick Jenkins, and I appreciate you joining us. Our next guest today is Joe LaPenna. Joe is the CEO and the founder and the owner of Drum Creative. Drum is a full-service marketing agency located right here in Greenville, but doing business a little bit of everywhere. Joe, welcome, buddy.
Thanks, Rick.
It is good to see you, man.
Yeah, good to see you too.
So, you all can do anything at Drum Creative. Now, you specialize in website design.
Yeah.
Right? But you can do anything. Just talk for a second about your services.
Yeah. When it comes to marketing and everything like that, web design is probably what we call the tentpole of our business. Everything needs to point to something. And in this digital marketing age, the website is really where we want to point everybody to. So if you do a commercial, you do pay-per-click advertising, you do direct mail pieces, any kind of email, it's all got to go to your website. And so we think that the website is the most important piece of that, and we focus a lot of our efforts on that part of it, and then we offer all the other services to drive people to it.
I have heard you say before, is your website, let me make sure I get this right, is your website your best salesperson?
Yeah.
Is that what it is? Did I say it right?
Top performing salesperson.
Yeah, that's right. Is your website your top performing salesperson? I think it's somewhat logical what that means, but tell me about it.
You know, a lot of people, when they build a website, they really do a lot of talking about themselves. They talk about their mission, vision, positioning statement. They talk about their core values, and nobody cares about that. They want to know, if they're searching for a product and or a service that you have to sell, they want to know, are you going to help me? Do you know what problem I'm facing? And so it's got to connect with the customer.
You know, I have seen so many websites that I did not think I could. Sometimes you go to a website and you don't know what they're selling.
Right.
Sometimes you go to a website and you can't quite understand what it is these people do, even though you know that when they put it together, they assumed you could tell. It was obvious to them, right? It was obvious to them. It was logical to them, but it might not be obvious to someone else. And I would assume that sometimes you have to talk to clients that don't understand that no one knows what they do.
Yeah, we actually had a website that we did for a client, and they said the name of their company, and then integrity was what they were selling.
Selling integrity.
Yeah, integrity. Okay. That's really great. We all want to sell integrity, but they were road construction.
Road construction.
So they had integrity in their road construction, but And so going back to that salesperson conversation that you and I were having, what do you want in a salesperson? Like, think about that for a second. They have to get out there and network. They've got to get in front of people, right? Well, your website has to do that.
Yeah.
So if we're doing parallels, right, this person's got to go out and drive and get to places to get that exposure and everything. On the other side, it's search engine optimization or pay-per-click advertising. That's getting your website in front of your customers. They're searching for your service or product, so now you've got to get in front of them. What's the other thing that you want in a salesperson? Well, you don't want them showing up in shorts and a tank top or sandals or something like that. You want them to look sharp. You want them to fit the bill. And your website should have a nice, pleasing, professional look and feel to it. But then the most important thing, and I saved it for last, it's about the messaging. Do they understand what your product or service is, or how it's going to help your customer? Do they know what problem it solves? And if they can answer that and they get in front of your customer, you can entrust them to sit down with anybody and sell them on what you have to offer and hopefully close the deal. That's what your website should do.
Sometimes I would think figuring that out with a client is easy, and I would think sometimes figuring that out is probably not so easy, and it might be like pulling teeth, right? Because I could envision a client that might not quite understand what it is that they're selling in reality. Right? And I know that you do one thing that helps people understand this a little bit better, and it's called StoryBrand, right?
That's right.
And so let's talk about StoryBrand for a second. But before I say that, and I want you to tell the listeners and the viewers what StoryBrand is exactly, but you are what's called a certified guide for StoryBrand.
Right.
And there aren't many certified guides for StoryBrand. And I only know this because I've known you for a while, and I've had this conversation before. I think there's only a couple in this market. And so this is something that not everyone can bring to the table, but you bring it to the table, and it is a way to sit down, and I'm going to say it the wrong way, and I'll let you say it the right way afterwards. But it is a way to sit down with a client and walk them through a process that makes them better understand who they are, what they do, what they have to sell, right?
That's right.
It might sound like complete logic, like, well, duh, right? Yeah. But it's not always that, right?
Oh, yeah. I'm so glad you said it that way, too, because that's exactly what we find. We'll go through this process with the customer, and we'll start asking them questions like, what is their goal? What is their aspirational identity? What do they want, right? And so the framework is really simple. You have the customer, they're the hero of the story. and they have an aspirational identity. They have something that looks like success, whether it's just use heating and air. They want their air conditioning working again, right?
Yeah.
That's success to them. But the problem is that there are people that are unreliable that they've dealt with, or they feel like they come and they look at it and now they need a new air conditioning unit. Like there's that trust factor. So then what we do is we say, you, the customer, are the guide in this story. And the guide is going to basically create this authority that says, yes, we can do this, and here's how, or here's why our product is the best product on the market. And then we give them a plan, a 3 simple step plan. What does it look like to do business with you? And kind of paint a path in 3 simple steps that ends in success. And then we also give them a call to action. Like, what is the clear call to action? You know, sometimes when you're meeting somebody, like, you don't just go, want to get started. Like we want to make something that's much more engaging. We want to use words that are much more engaging. And then we paint that picture of success and avoids failure. We want to create stakes. What would happen if they don't do business with you, or if they don't use your product?
I have seen you do a story brand presentation for a client that used Star Wars.
Yeah.
It used Star Wars. I don't know how to say it any other way than that. Tell me what that was.
Yeah. So the framework is done. Story is an age-old way of telling story. There's an age-old framework in telling story, and that is it. You got that client that ends in success and all that. So I use Star Wars all the time, and sometimes I'll ask the question, have you seen the movie Star Wars? And then I'm like a deer in the headlights when they haven't. I'm like,
someone hasn't seen Star Wars.
Yeah, somebody has not seen. I've had some people tell me I refuse to watch Star Wars. And I'm like, okay, how's Sleeping Beauty? Let's go that route. But using Star Wars, you have the hero of the story, Luke Skywalker. He has an aspirational identity, right? It's to become a rebel pilot, but he has a problem. The problem is the evil empire. As a matter of fact, they kill his aunt and uncle, and he's orphaned again. He's on his own. And now he meets the guide in the story, and that's Obi-Wan Kenobi. And he creates an immediate authority. He fought with the Rebel Alliance. He knew his father. So he knew this guy could help him become a Rebel pilot or get to the Rebel Alliance. And he gives him a plan. He shows him the ways of the Force. He shows him how to become a warrior. And then at the end of the movie, there's that call to action. Spoiler alert, Obi-Wan is now dead. And he's in the trench of the Death Star. He's learned all these things from Obi-Wan. He's in the trench of the Death Star. He's got to shoot these torpedoes in this tiny little hole. Darth Vader's on his tail. X-Wings are blowing up around him. He's got the computer out, and he hears, use the Force. Let go. Is he going to trust this dead voice in his head, or is he going to continue on with what he's doing? So he chooses to do it. He shoots the torpedoes, and then goes, oh crap, they went in. He flies away, blows up the Death Star, wins the day, ends in success, avoids failure. And I like to say we saw failure because they used the same exact graphics and person and sound effects when they blew up an earlier planet in the movie. And so we saw that tension and everything. And so now we're at the end, and he does it and wins the day, gets a medal hung around his neck, and I, at the age of 7 years old, grab a yellow wiffle ball bat and battle my cousin in a lightsaber duel.
Right.
There it is. Same idea is done in marketing. We do that same storyline. Who's your customer? And see, in my case, if you needed a website, right? The customer they're the hero of the story. They want a new website. They want it to be better messaged and everything. But they have a problem. They don't trust their current provider, or their website just doesn't have a clear message. They know it's not connecting. It's not converting. They're getting no business from it. That's a problem. So now I'm going to be their Joby-Wan Kenobi.
Joby-Wan.
A client named me that. I can. A client named me it. It's now forever. So now we're going to guide them, right? And we're going to show them how we're going to help them end in success. We're going to give them that plan, the 3-step plan. Let's talk, let's build a website, and let's drum up business. And then the call to action is let's start a project together. And then we're going to have the avoid failure and end in success. And you're going to be drumming up business with your website.
There it is. That is so good. And I can't think of a better way to end that off than to say, let's drum up business. I mean, That was good stuff, buddy.
Thanks.
That's good.
Appreciate it.
Folks, that is Joe LaPenna. Joe is the owner and the CEO at Drum Creative, a full-service marketing firm here in Greenville, specializing in website design. So reach out to Joby Wan if you need some assistance. Folks, that does it. That wraps up another episode of Let's Talk Business. I appreciate you joining us again, whether you were on 94.5 listening to us or you checked out our podcast. Or maybe you saw the video on our YouTube video series. We appreciate you being here, and we'll see you next time.